BS Zoology, 3rd semester, final term, phylum Annelida. Today we are going to discuss about class Polychaeta delivered by Shabana Wali. As we have discussed about the classification of phylum Annelida in our previous lecture, today we have its first class Polychaeta. And in Polychaeta we have examples Nereis. As you know well now, polychaetes are mostly marine and are usually between 5 and 10 cm long. With more than 5,300 species have been reported yet. It is the largest of the annelid classes. They have adapted to a variety of habitats. Many live on the ocean floor, under rocks and shells, and within the crevices of coral reefs. Some are burrowers and move through their substrate by peristaltic contractions of the body wall. Some construct tubes of cemented sand grains or secreted organic materials. Mucus-lined tubes serve as protective retreats and feeding stations. Now come on its external structure. They have metamerism, and lateral body extensions are called parapodia. Chitinous rods support the parapodia, and numerous setae project from the parapodia, giving them their class name setae. Setae are bristles secreted from invaginations of the distal ends of parapodia. They also aid locomotions by digging into the substrate and also hold a worm in its burrows or tubes. The prostomium of a polychaete is a lobe that projects dorsally and anteriorly to the mouth and contains numerous sensory structures, including eyes, antennae, palps, and ciliated pits or grooves called nuchal organs. The first body segment, the prostomium, surrounds the mouth and bears sensory tentacles or cirri. The epidermis of polychaetes consists of a single layer of columnar cells that secrete a protective non-living cuticle. Some polychaetes have epidermal glands that secrete luminescent compounds. Luminescent compounds give the brightness around. Now we have polychaetes locomotion. To move, the longitudinal muscles on one side of the body act antagonistically to the longitudinal muscles on the other side of the body, so that undulating waves move along the length of the body from the posterior end towards the head. Propulsive force is the result of the parapodia and setae acting against the substrate or water. Parapodia on opposite sides of the body are out of phase with one another. When longitudinal muscles on one side of the segment contract, shifting the parapodium and protruding the setae for the power stroke. As a polychaete changes from a slow crawl to swimming, the period and amplitude of undulatory waves increase. Undulatory waves are similar waves. Burrowing polychaetes push their way through sand and mud by contractions of the body wall or by eating their way through the substrate and eliminate through the anus. After discussing properly the locomotion of polychaetes, next we have digestive system in polychaetes or nares. In some, when the proboscis is everted, paired jaws are opened and may be used for seizing prey. Predatory polychaetes may not leave their burrow or coral crevices. When prey approaches a burrow entrance, the worm quickly extends its anterior portion, everts the proboscis, and pulls the prey back into the burrow. Some polychaetes have poison glands at the base of the jaw. Other polychaetes are herbivores and scavengers. You know well, scavengers feed on dead material of living beings and use jaws for tearing food. Deposit feeding polychaetes extract organic matter from the marine sediments they ingest. The digestive tract is a straight tube that mesenteries and septa suspend in the body cavity. The anterior region is modified into a proboscis that special protractor muscles and coelomic pressure can avert through the mouth. Retractor muscles bring the posterior back into the peristomium. Protractor muscles and retractor muscles give the opposite motions. Protractor muscles are used to extend the part, while retractor muscles are used to hold the part in the backward condition. The digestive tract consists of a pharynx that, when everted, forms the proboscis, a sac-like storage sac called a crop, a grinding gizzard, and a long straight intestine. Organic matter is digested extracellularly, and the inorganic particles are passed through the intestine and released as castings. Many sedentary and tube-dwelling polychaetes are filter feeders. You know about filter feeders, which used to extract the material from the liquid part of the host. They usually lack a proboscis. Some tube dwellers called fanworms possess radioles that form a funnel-shaped fan. Cilia on the radioles circulate water through the fan, trapping food particles. Trapped particles are carried along a food groove at the axis of the radiole. During transport, a sorting mechanism rejects the largest particles and transport the finest particles to the mouth, and this sorting mechanism can be fulfilled with the help of the cilia which are present at the radioles. Filter fetus Catoptanus lives in a U-shaped tube and secretes a mucus bag that collects food particles, which may be as small as 1 micrometer. The parapodia of segments 14 through 16 are modified into fans that create filtration currents. When full, the entire mucus bag is ingested. Polychaetes that inhabit substrates rich in dissolved organic matter can absorb as much as 20 to 40% of their energy requirements. This method of feeding occurs in other organic compounds. This method of feeding occurs in other animal phyla too, but rarely accounts for more than 1% of their energy needs. Excretion, the end process of digestion. Those that live in tubes that open at both ends simply have waste carried away by water circulating through the tube. Those that live in tubes that open at one end must turn around in the tube to defecate, or they may use ciliary tracts along the body wall to carry feces to the tube opening. After discussing the digestion in polychaetes, next we have respiration or gaseous exchange. Respiratory gases of most annelids simply diffuse across the body wall, and parapodia increase the surface area for these exchange. In many polychaetes, parapodial gills further increase the surface area for gaseous exchange. Polychaete circulatory system. Polychaetes have a closed circulatory system. Oxygen is usually carried in combination with molecules called respiratory pigments, which are usually dissolved in the plasma. We have discussed before about the characteristic of closed circulatory system. Closed circulatory system have specific vessels for the flow of body fluid. Blood may be colorless, green or red depending on the presence or type of respiratory pigments. Respiratory pigments are usually oxygen carrying compounds which are used to carry the oxygen from the media in which they live. Contractile elements of polychaete circulatory system consist of a dorsal aorta that lies just above the digestive tract and propels blood from rear to front, and a ventral aorta that lies ventral to the digestive tract and propels blood from front to rear. Running between these two vessels are 2 or 3 sets of segmental vessels that receive blood from the ventral aorta and break into capillary beds in the gut and body wall. Capillaries coalesce again into segmental vessels that deliver blood to the dorsal aorta. Excretory system in polychaete nares. Annelids excrete ammonia across the body wall. Excretory organs of annelids are more active in regulating water and ion balances. Most marine polychaetes, if presented with extremely diluted seawater, cannot survive the osmotic influx of water and the resultant loss of ions. The evolution of efficient osmoregulatory abilities has permitted only a few polychaetes to invade fresh water. The excretory organs of annelids are nephridia. Annelids have 2 types of nephridia: protonephridium and primitive metanephridium. Protonephridium consists of a tubule with a closed bulb at one end and a concentration to the outside of the body at the other end. Protonephridia have a tuft of cilia in their bulbular end that delivers fluid through the tubule. Sometimes primitive polychaetes species, paired, segmentally arranged protonephridia that have their bulbular end projecting through the anterior septum into an adjacent segment and the opposite end opening through the body wall at the nephridiopore. Most polychaetes possess metanephridium. Metanephridium consists of an open ciliated funnel called the nephrostome that projects through an anterior septum into the coelom of an adjacent segment. At the opposite end, a tubule opens through the body wall at a nephridiopore or occasionally through the intestine. There is usually one pair of metanephridia per segment, and tubules may be extensively coiled with one portion dilated into a bladder. A capillary bed is usually associated with a tubule of a metanephridium for active transport of ions between the blood and the nephridium. Some polychaetes also have chlorhexogen tissues associated with the digestive tract. Their function is just like the liver in chordates. This tissue functions in amino acid metabolism, or we can say protein metabolism, in all type of annelids. Now come for the nervous system. Polychaetes' nervous system includes a pair of suprapharyngeal ganglia which connect to a pair of subpharyngeal ganglia by circumpharyngeal connectives that run dorsoventrally along either side of the pharynx. A double ventral nerve cord runs the length of the worm along the ventral margin of each coelomic space, and a paired segmental ganglion is in each segment. The double ventral nerve cord and paired segmental ganglia may fuse to varying extents in different taxonomic groups. Lateral nerves emerge from each segmental ganglion, supplying the body wall, musculature, and other structures of that segment. Segmental ganglia coordinate swimming, crawling in isolated segments. Each segment acts separately from but is closely coordinated with neighboring segments. The subpharyngeal ganglia help mediate locomotor functions requiring coordination of distant segments. The subpharyngeal ganglia probably control motor and sensory functions functions involved with feeding and sensory functions associated with forward locomotion. The ventral nerve cord also contains giant fibers involved with escape reactions. For example, a harsh stimulus such as fishhook at one end of a worm causes rapid withdrawal from the stimulus. Giant fibers are approximately 50 micrometer in diameter and conduct nerve impulses at 30 meters per second. Now we have sensory organs for discussion. Polychaetes have various sensory organs. Their numbers usually from 2 to 4 pairs of eyes on the surface of the prostomium. They vary in complexity from a simple cup of receptor cells to structures made up of a cornea, lens, and vitreous body. Most polychaetes react negatively to increased light intensity. Fanworms, however, react negatively to decreasing light intensity. If shadows cross them, fanworms retreat into their tubes. This response is believed to help protect fanworms from passing predators. Nuchal organs. Nuchal organs are pairs of ciliated sensory pits or slits in the head region. Nerves from the suprapharyngeal ganglia innervate nuchal organs, which are thought to be chemoreceptors for food detection. Statocysts are in the head region of the polychaetes. Ciliated tubercles, ridges, and bands, all of which contain receptors for tactile senses, cover the body wall. After discussing sensory organs, we have reproduction. Some polychaetes reproduce asexually by budding or by transfer fission. Sexual reproduction is common. Most polychaetes are dioecious. Gonads develop as masses of gametes that project from the coelomic peritoneum. Most polychaetes have gonads limited to specific segments. Gametes are shed into the coelom, where they mature. Mature female worms are often packed with eggs. Gametes may exit worms by entering nephrostomes of metanephridia and exiting through the nephridiopores, or they may be released in some polychaetes. After the worm ruptures, in these cases, the adult soon dies. Only a few polychaetes have separate gonoduct, a condition believed to be primitive. Fertilization is external in most polychaetes. A unique copulatory habit has been reported in Platynereis megalops from Woodhull. Towards the end of their lives, male and female worms cease feeding and their intestinal tracts begin to degenerate. At this time, gametes have accumulated in the body cavity. During sperm transfer, male and female worms coil together and the male inserts his anus into the mouth of the female because the digestive tract of the worms have degenerated. Sperm transferred directly from the male coelom to the egg-filled coelom of the female. This method ensures fertilization of most eggs, after which the female shed eggs from her anus. Both worms die soon after copulation. Epitoky is the formation of a reproductive individuals that differs from non-reproductive form of the species. Epitoke has a body that is modified into two body regions. Anterior segments carry on normal maintenance function and posterior segments are enlarged and filled with gametes. The epitoke may have modified parapodia for more efficient swimming. Reproductive swarming habits of Aeneas viridis also occurs in other species, usually in response to changing light intensities and lunar periods. The Atlantic parallelobum, for example, swarms at dawn during the first and third quarters of the July lunar cycle. Swarming of epitoke accomplished at least three things. Number one, because the non-reproductive individuals remain safe below the surface waters, predators cannot devastate an entire population. External fertilization requires that individuals become reproductively active at same time and in close proximity to one another. Swarming ensures that large number of individuals are in the right place at the proper time. Swarming of vast numbers of individuals for brief periods provide a banquet for predators. Swarming, usually we use this word for breakdown of colony into many further colonies. Because vast number of prey are available for only short periods during the year, predators' population cannot increase beyond the limits of their normal diets. Spiral cleavage of fertilized eggs may result in planktonic trochophore larvae that bud segments anterior to the anus. Larvae eventually settle to the substrate. As growth proceeds, newer segments continue to be added posteriorly. Thus, the anterior end of a polychaete is the oldest end. Many other polychaetes lack a trochophore and display direct development or metamorphosis from another larval stage. You know well about the metamorphosis, the process by which newborn adopt the shape of the adult by crossing or passing many shapes or faces. Now, dear student, thanks for joining us.